Hebrews 12, verses 1 through 5 says, since we have such a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let's lay aside the sin that entangles us and every encumbrance, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame. So as we study this topic of depression, avoiding despair in difficult times, we could give a short definition to depression like this: not finishing your race God has marked out for you because of adversity, right? Stopping. So counseling a saint who is truly depressed needs help finishing their race. That's why this is important. It's not just about getting them to feel better. It's about getting them to finish what God has started and what God will start. Pursuing sanctification to the end. So what does the Bible say about depression? It's not distressing trials. 1 Peter 1:6. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you have been distressed by trials. It's not grief. It's not sorrow or grief. It's Jesus saw Mary weeping and over Lazarus' death, and Jesus himself then wept. It's not what we're talking about here. It's not disappointment at rejection. Jesus saw the crowd, 6,000 or more there, and they deserted him, it said. And he turns to his disciples, "You're going to leave me too." He didn't stop, though. It's not perplexing circumstances that tempt us to be despairing, or discouraging circumstances, or despairing. All four of these are what's happening to us. It's that weather of our life, right? Things going on around us. Depression is a response. It's not perplexity. And if we were to think about the Apostle Paul, as he says in 2 Corinthians 4:7 through 8, he says that we have this treasure in earthen vessels, and we are perplexed but not despairing. And so depression is becoming despairing in perplexing circumstances. Think of it that way. This is the passage. And when someone comes in with depression, saying they're struggling with depression, they have lots of ways that they define it. But let's think biblically about this definition of depression. Some people come in saying they're depressed, and biblically they're not. They're discouraged. They're going through grief. They haven't stopped the race, though. They're feeling blue about something. It hasn't stopped them. There may be some needs to get their hope in the Lord stronger, but depression is a stopping. It's despairing, becoming despairing in perplexity. So there's a trial in 1 Peter in chapter 1 when we talked about distressing trials. Nero was burning Christians. That's perplexity, right? Depression or being overwhelmed or stopping pursuing Christ would be what we're talking about here. Here's what Paul's perplexity was. Think about this in this passage. He says, we were perplexed. Paul, in 2 Corinthians 11:24, received 39 lashes. He was beaten with rods. He was shipwrecked, stoned, a day and the night in the deep. Journeys, dangers in rivers, dangers in robbers, from his countrymen, from the Gentiles, in the wilderness. He had dogs chase him, right? Sleepless nights, hunger, thirst, no food, cold, exposure, and on top of this, pressure of all the church. And he did not become, what? Despairing. Certainly perplexed, right? Now, I'll stop you here for a minute to say what's interesting about this verse is 3 chapters earlier in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, he says, I don't want you to be uninformed, brethren, about what happened to me up in Asia. He said, we were burdened excessively beyond our ability, and he said, to the point of despairing of life itself. So did Paul experience what we would call depression? Yes, but it was short-lived, because here in 3 chapters later he says, we're not despairing anymore. Now we're just perplexed. Let me explain what the difference is in those 2 words. Perplexed versus despairing. Let's get the sense of that, because Paul's doing a play on words here. It's a very similar word in the Greek. Aporeo is what perplexed is. It's two words, no way through. So think of it, no way through. So Paul is saying we are experiencing a no way through here, right?